Imagine being locked inside the most secure prison in America. A prison surrounded by freezing water, powerful currents, and constant surveillance. A place where officials claimed escape was impossible. Yet in June 1962, 3 prisoners disappeared from their cells and were never seen again. Even today, more than 60 years later, nobody knows for certain whether they drowned in the ocean or successfully escaped. This is the mystery of the Alcatraz escape. Alcatraz Island sits in the middle of San Francisco Bay in California. The prison was designed to hold America's most dangerous criminals. Famous inmates included Al Capone and many others considered too dangerous for ordinary prisons. The island itself acted as a natural barrier. The water surrounding Alcatraz was extremely cold. Strong currents could carry a swimmer far out into the Pacific Ocean. Sharks were not the main danger. The freezing water and currents were. Because of these conditions, prison officials believed no inmate could ever escape and survive. Among the prisoners were 3 men named Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin. Frank Morris was considered highly intelligent. His IQ was reportedly above average, and he had attempted escapes from other prisons before. The Anglin brothers were experienced workers who had spent much of their lives around water. Together, the 3 men began planning one of the most daring prison escapes in history. For months, they secretly worked inside their cells. Using simple tools, including modified spoons and homemade devices, they slowly chipped away at the walls behind the ventilation grills. Every night, while guards walked past their cells, the prisoners carefully removed pieces of concrete little by little. To hide the noise, they played music during designated prison hours. Eventually, they created openings large enough to crawl through. Behind the walls was an unused utility corridor. This hidden area became the perfect place to prepare for their escape. The prisoners then started working on another challenge. They needed a way to cross the dangerous waters surrounding Alcatraz. Using more than 50 stolen raincoats, they created an improvised inflatable raft and life jackets. Everything had to remain hidden from prison guards. If discovered, the plan would immediately fail. Night after night, they continued preparing. Then came the 11th of June, 1962. The 3 prisoners placed fake heads on their beds. These dummy heads were made from soap, paper, and real human hair collected from the prison barber shop. In the darkness, the fake heads looked surprisingly realistic. When guards glanced into the cells, it appeared that the prisoners were sleeping peacefully. Meanwhile, the 3 men crawled through the openings behind their cells and moved into the utility corridor. From there, they climbed upward through the prison structure and eventually reached the roof. After reaching the outside, they carefully made their way toward the shoreline. Then they disappeared into the night. The next morning, prison guards discovered the empty cells. At first, everything seemed normal. Then a guard touched one of the heads. It rolled off the pillow. The prison immediately went into lockdown. One of the largest manhunts in American history began. The FBI, Coast Guard, military personnel, and local authorities launched a massive search operation. Helicopters searched the bay. Boats scanned the water. Agents followed every possible lead. Soon, investigators discovered pieces of the escape equipment floating in the bay. Parts of a raincoat raft were recovered. A life jacket was found. But there was one major problem. No bodies were ever recovered. Officials concluded that the prisoners most likely drowned in the freezing waters. The case was officially closed, with the assumption that the men never survived. However, many people were not convinced. The Anglin family later claimed that the brothers may have survived. Some family members reported receiving mysterious photographs and messages over the years. One photograph allegedly showed 2 men resembling the Anglin brothers standing in Brazil many years after the escape. The image generated enormous public interest. Investigators examined it, but no definitive conclusion was reached. Then another surprising development appeared. Years later, authorities reportedly received a letter from someone claiming to be John Anglin. The writer stated that all 3 escapees had survived the crossing. According to the letter, Frank Morris had died years earlier, while the Anglin brothers were still alive. The authenticity of the letter was never fully confirmed. As a result, the mystery only grew deeper. Could 3 prisoners really have escaped from the most secure prison in America? Some experts believe they drowned shortly after entering the water. Others point to the lack of bodies and believe the escape may have succeeded. Even modern investigations have produced mixed conclusions. Computer simulations suggest survival may have been possible if the prisoners left the island at exactly the right time and used ocean currents to their advantage. This means the impossible escape might not have been impossible after all. Today, Alcatraz has become one of America's most famous tourist attractions. Visitors walk through the prison corridors and stand inside the very cells used by the escapees. Yet one question still remains unanswered. Did Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers die in the cold waters of San Francisco Bay? Or did they accomplish the greatest prison escape in American history and live the rest of their lives as free men? More than 60 years later, nobody knows the truth. And that is why the Alcatraz escape remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history.